So you gentlemen are obviously legends in Darwin. I mean, it wasn't long before I could, find Leon on LinkedIn and same with you, Peter. So you have obviously been subject to and witness to a lot of businesses and business landscape on a whole in Darwin and the wider NT. Do any stand out amidst this current ecosystem who are thriving, and if you could share snippets of what they're doing that all of us across could follow?
One thing I've found, I guess, that is perhaps remarkable is that it seems to be business as usual. Notwithstanding what's happening, people are out there building houses. Still spoke to my neighbour who is a builder, and he's on site with 6 other people. I think that's the maximum you can have. Yeah, look, we haven't noticed any material change in the way people are doing business, other than the fact that they're doing business differently through the social isolation.
Right.
It's been really encouraging to me to watch a lot of businesses quickly adapt in an environment that even 2 weeks ago they would never have thought was possible. And Ward Keller is an example of that. Every staff member is now working from home, whether they're a lawyer, whether they're an article clerk, whether they're a secretary, whether they're an assistant of some description. So if you'd asked mainstream law firms whether they could have every staff member working at home a month ago, they would have laughed at you and said, mate, not possible. The other thing that I would say is that what's interested me, and I alluded to it before with my own attitude, is how people have become instantly giving in a business sense and in a personal sense. And, like I'm probably a good example of that. I am affected directly by this situation financially, massively. But it's not stopping me from thinking about other businesses who simply can't trade right now or can't do what they would ordinarily do, albeit differently, because they don't have an online presence, or their online presence is not set up to take orders, or it's not set up to, do whatever it is they need to do. So I think that's the thing that has really been highlighted to me, is people's willingness to give a hand to whoever it is, small, medium or large. People are not minding doing that right now, and they're not thinking about, oh, is this person taking advantage of me? We're just assuming that everybody's got their head screwed on the same way and everybody's doing it for the greater good of everybody else.
I'm sensitive to Peter's 9-minute window, so
We've got 3 minutes 50 left, Chris.
Yeah. So what got you both to start the Territory Story podcast?
Oh, that's always a good story. I've been listening to podcasts for over 10 years. I believe I was listening to podcasts before podcasts were even a thing. And I love them. That's where I consume probably 90% of my knowledge now. I listen to them at night in particular. I listen to them on the way to work, on the way home. And I voraciously consume information that way. At one point, I started to feel like, wouldn't it be great to do a podcast? But I had no idea how to do it. And that was a big obstacle for me. Then along came a fellow called Peter Kafkas, who is, we fondly refer to as the Professor, and his partner in crime, who is on the other, on the line right now. And the two of them together introduced me to an application called Anchor, and that was it. I grabbed it. I said to Peter Gowers, I said, look, do you want to do the podcast, a podcast with me? Let's do it on the Territory. The government was promoting Boundless Possible, and so we grabbed that as our moniker for a while and ran with it.
I was going to say, so my background is commercial radio. I've done various other things along the way, but I left the business probably a decade or so ago now. And if I'm brutally honest with you and with Leon, I sort of still have that enjoyment of performing in some way, shape or form. So I guess this podcast gave us a platform so that, we could record something, we get people in, we have great conversations about the Northern Territory and the people within it or people connected to it. I get to make the odd joke along the way, and sometimes they laugh, which is a benefit. But we're 60 plus episodes in now, and what it's taught us is that, you know, similar to something you said before about why people come to the Territory, and sometimes it's not why they come, but the story is almost always the same as to why they stay, and that sums up the Northern Territory and you know, Darwin and all of the towns and cities of the Territory.
You know, ultimately what drives this podcast and what makes it really successful is the fact that we tell stories. You know, and that's where our focus has always been.